刚才我特别提到俄罗斯和乌克兰这场战争，这场入侵战争呢，它改变了全世界很多事情。我们熟悉的是粮食，欧洲对它的能源依赖，全世界所有能源价格的上涨。另外一个是汽车这个行业。美国著名的财经频道 CNBC 特别做了一个专题，谈到为什么这场战争会影响到汽车的生产。
In March of 2022, S&P Global Mobility cut its global auto production forecast by 2.6 million vehicles in both 2022 and 2023. The worst-case scenario totaled as much as 4 million lost vehicles. Separately, S&P Global Credit analysts also forecasted that in 2022, auto sales will drop 2% below 2021 levels. That is a significant decline from the 4 to 6% rise in sales the group had last predicted in October 2021.
欧美汽车产业困境一波未平，一波又起，经历新冠疫情停工、停产、停运、晶片短缺，接着面临油价高涨，现又遭遇俄乌战争。关键的汽车原料难产也难出口，导致新车再减产，出产时间更拉长，攸关消费者钱包的车价也进一步推高。美国新车估计2022年价钱上涨可高达2%，2021年已涨40%的二手车价格同样难见下跌。一般大众购车需求将因价格高涨而减少，需求减少最终将导致车价下滑，车商恐继续减产，车市预期2023年前恐难回稳。
The bigger concern is the shortages of materials and parts that are already hitting European automakers. The report warned these could well spread to other markets if the war continues. European car makers have already, at least temporarily, idled production at several factories. The report highlighted disruptions to supply of critical automotive parts from the region, perhaps most notably wire harnesses from Ukraine.
乌克兰西部城市拥有低成本、高技术劳力、副产原料和邻近欧洲车厂等优势，一一都符合生产汽车线束的最佳条件，成为欧洲线束生产中心。日本恒仓、法国奈克森和德国莱尼都在乌克兰设厂生产。乌克兰生产的汽车线束约7%出口到欧洲，当中德国和波兰就占45%。
About 22 automotive companies hailing from 6 countries have invested more than $500 million in Ukraine. There are about 38 factories in the country, employing about 60,000 workers. 11 of those companies make wire harnesses, with the rest spread out among other auto parts, such as electronics, seats, plastics, and others. The country is a key supplier, especially for German automakers, such as BMW, Volkswagen, and Mercedes.
The dominant constraint is indeed wiring harnesses, so chip supply is at this moment not constraining our operations. Currently we are, let's say, trying to get the most out of the wiring harness production in the Ukraine, but parallel, right from the start, from the conflict, we started to work on alternatives which are on the way.
战争中断，乌克兰限速生产，冲击欧洲汽车产业。乌克兰还是奶气主要来源国，国内2大奶气供应商满足全球约1半的奶气需求，顾客包括台湾、南韩、中美德等国家。2大供应商都位于俄军战略目标区，一是马里乌波尔，另一是奥德萨，生产也早因战争停滞。其他国家的奶气供应商需花费9个月到2年时间增产，才能弥补乌克兰的空缺。奶气是生产晶片不可或缺的要素，是否冲击各国半导体大厂，端看各家存货量能维持多久，能否在断货前找到替代来源。
Well, Russian raw materials make up just 5% of a car's value, but that 5% is absolutely crucial for onboard electronics, catalytic converters, and the electric car batteries that are ever more in demand in the shift from fossil fuel power. Without Russian palladium, not a single combustion vehicle would pass an emissions test. The precious metal installed in the catalytic converter filters harmful exhaust gases from the air coming out of the exhaust.
The price of palladium is already an eye-popping $2,500 an ounce, which makes it more expensive than gold. Russia contributes about 40% of the world's raw palladium and about 25% of the total palladium in circulation.
生产汽车的关键原料恐断货，德国车商对2022年的业绩已感到黯淡。福斯转移欧洲部分生产到北美和中国，以缓解俄乌战争引发的供应中断问题。BMW 2022年汽车毛利预估值从 8% 到 10% 下调到 7% 到 9%。乌俄战争还将打击多国电动车普及化的努力，拖累国家减少温室效益气体排放的进展。俄罗斯是全球第3大镍生产国，用来制造电动车电池的关键原料。
An average lithium-ion car battery contains 8 kilos of lithium, 35 of nickel, 20 of manganese, and 14 of cobalt. Nickel is a fundamental ingredient of high-performance rechargeable car batteries. In Germany, 40% of the nickel needed to make EV batteries comes from Russian mines.
Norilsk is a big nickel producer. They produce around 7% of the world's nickel, but they produce about 20% of the world's Class 1 nickels.
Class 1 nickel is an essential ingredient in EV batteries. Norilsk Nickel, also known as Nornickel, had announced a deal with German chemical company BASF to produce battery materials for the European market. The idea was to localize production and reduce European dependence on nickel from China.
Russia is not the only source of nickel and palladium, but it's unclear if mines in Indonesia, Finland, and South Africa can simply ramp up their operations overnight.
When it was chip issues and COVID issues, it was directly related to the supply chain and getting part A to part B. But when it comes to the Ukraine issue, now it's a political event. Now people have to take sides. They have to, they're sanctioning Russia or they're on Russia's side. How are the optics of that going to affect these automotive manufacturers, suppliers when this whole thing is over? So there's another element on top of it, just more than a supply chain ripple.
If China were to obtain these raw materials even more cheaply, say through Russia, then suppliers from China would be operating at a lower cost level than European players, for example. This would significantly strengthen the automotive industry in China. And also remember that China is increasingly an exporter of electric cars to Europe. And these vehicles could then be offered more cheaply.
俄罗斯掌握镍和钯等战略金属原料，有关干净能源转换。目前这些战略金属都还能在莫斯科和欧盟之间流通，尚未进入制裁或是限制出口清单。但持续中的战争增添俄罗斯原料供给的不确定性，这些金属原料价格将持续飙涨。战争造成的原料不稳定影响或许只是一时，但政治影响将持续蔓延。选边站队下，获益的永远是掌握丰富资源的国家。